Hello traders, this is Blake Morrow and you are listening to the Daily Roundup webinar. Hope everybody's having a great trading session. Um, so let's talk, first of all, I guess we should probably discuss crude oil. Crude continues to slide and we'll come back to the S&P here in just a second. Let's take a look at crude. Here's the continuous contract, which is not too far off of the June contract. The June contract's at 12.05. We're nearing the overnight lows. I was looking at the continuous contract a little bit earlier, and we found this little Garley pattern, which actually worked out pretty well for anybody who was looking at it at the time. We were looking at this in the chat room, and we had a little Gartley pattern, and we bounced. Bounced pretty good actually, 1359 to 1440, so not bad. But the continuous contract is still, trading pretty heavy, as is crude oil. Okay, so it's just something that we should note. What's really interesting, though, and I'm gonna come back to the futures here in a second, is the dollar Canadian is trading really heavy. With as weak as crude is, I would have expected the dollar Canadian to be a lot stronger by now. It really isn't. It's just it's holding up, but again, with crude as weak as it is, you would think that the dollar Canadian would be stronger than it is. It did bounce off where it needed to bounce off of. So let's just take that into account. So if you are bullish the dollar Canadian, which I've traded it a couple of times here, and it basically it's coming back down towards the breakout point, holding above that. And I think while we trade above 141.80, it remains in the bullish camp. However, the thing that I worry most about with the dollar Canadian at this point is what's happening with crude. Now, the reason why crude is an issue, and here let me pull over that so you can see the. By the way, these are the contracts that expire today. This is the May contract. This is the June contract right here. Lower left, right? Here's the June contract, and we're nearing the overnight lows. The problem that we have with crude is that daily sentiment index was at 3 overnight, and crude's getting to, it's one thing when you see the front month contract go into negative territory, you understand the reasons why. But when crude oil itself is, down at these levels, you got to be a little careful, especially with sentiment as bearish as it is. I wouldn't be surprised to see crude oil trade back above 15 by the end of the day. Now, that's not saying that I'm going to buy crude. I'm just saying that if it does, I think the risk would be then if crude really does start to bounce, you're going to see, the dollar Canadian come off, because it's just not acting very well. It's just not acting like, it should, with crude as weak as it is. I would have thought already the dollar Canadian would be back up at the highs. And that's not to say that it won't get up there. It's just, I'm surprised that it hasn't done so already. Let's talk about equities really quick. So the equity markets, we broke through that 2750 level. Don't forget, we still have a lot of today left. Now, you'll notice that we're on a fib, right? It's the 38% retracement of this the last leg higher, and we're at some support here. The reason why I'm pointing this out is because if we close below 2750, that's a bearish event. If we close the day back above 2750, I wouldn't want to be short, because that would mean that we hit the 38% retracement, we kind of created a false breakdown. Then you're at risk of much higher levels, right? And then you get a 38% retracement. That's usually a sign of a continuation pattern. So it's not, I'm looking at the stock market right now, and one of the reasons why I'm a little, fearful of a reversal here down at these levels is because I'm looking at the euro yen. Now, if you were listening to the face webinar earlier today, I was talking about the euro yen being at really key support. I was playing it on the long side down here. I didn't capture this whole move because I didn't expect it to be like that. It rallied off as support if you were listening to the face webinar. Now we stopped at what I consider pretty key downtrend line. I actually had an order at 117.05. I got filled. I had it sitting out there, totally sitting out there, got filled, and I was out of the money for a little bit, and then it came down, and I took 25 pips off of it. But if you're looking at the euro yen and you're like, man, this thing is pretty strong, even with stocks as weak as they are, what happens if stocks bounce? Because I'm in the camp that if the euro yen breaks through 116, you could just write it off. It's done. I mean, we're probably going to go, trade down to 112, 114, somewhere down here. But, and you guys remember the conversation earlier this morning, if you were on the Face webinar, and I'm going to give you the buts, but it's early in the day. And, remember when I was talking earlier this morning, for those of you that were listening in, I was looking at, this candle was red right here. And I'm like, yeah, this one was really red at this point. This one was really red at this point. This one was really red at that point, but they all turned and left long wicks. And I warned that could possibly happen today. So here we are later on in the morning, 4 hours later, and we do have this long wick. So the risk is if stocks bounce and the euro yen breaks above these highs, we're going to go back into back into this range. We're going to go back towards 120. I'm not saying that we're going to get all the way to 120, but that would be my initial thoughts is, shoot, here we go back towards the 200-day moving average and back towards 120. Again, I'm not saying that's going to happen, but that is a risk. That's a risk if equities decide they want to bounce. One of the things that still resonates with me from earlier this morning, a couple of the guys in the chat room are like, everybody's short equities. Well, equities have come down. When I say everybody, I'm talking about retail. Equities have come down. They look like they're breaking lower, but it's still early. All right. So again, I'm going to reiterate, if we get back above 2750, I wouldn't want to be short. I wouldn't want to be short risk. And I would not want to be short the euro yen, right? I just wouldn't. But there's a lot of time left in today. And frankly, the market looks pretty weak, but I'm surprised the euro yen isn't like 40 pips lower right now. That's another thing that's just, I'm scratching my head about. Anyway, if you guys haven't signed up for the Online Trader Summit, make sure you do so. It's free to register. It is next Wednesday. Speaking of which, I have to look at what time am I speaking? I have no idea, by the way. I have no idea. I am speaking end of day one. Or is day two? Oh, day two. I'm speaking at 10:45 Eastern. Well, I guess I'll still do I'll do the daily roundup then. You guys are in luck. You still get the roundup. But make sure you guys are signed up for that, because it's gonna be a cool event and it's free. You don't even have to leave anywhere. Also, if you're listening to this after the fact, make sure you try out ForexAnalytix. And ForexAnalytix, I can't even talk. It's only $1 for 10 days. Then you can listen to this webinar live, and you can use all of our fancy mobile apps. You can use the you can use the premium product even while you're testing it out, even if you decide to go with the light version later. It's pretty cool, right? All right. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I hope you have a wonderful afternoon, and I'll see you tomorrow morning on the Face webinar. Just a minute. Yeah, tomorrow's Wednesday. All right. Talk to you guys soon. Thanks, everybody.